Well, our humble radio station, 2AFM, has an impressive listenership. We seem to have fiercely loyal supporters who listen to us, in some cases, from the moment they wake up until the moment they go to bed. You may be one of them. But what exactly is 2AFM and where did it all start? How did it all happen? Tonight we have a very special chat with three 2AFM stalwarts who are going to take our hands and walk us down 2AFM memory lane. Marsha Wells, Stuart Watson and Chris Wallace, welcome to It's Time to Talk.
Hello, Tim.
Yeah, hi, Tim.
Tell us, when did 2AFM start and what was the purpose of it when it did start?
In the late 70s it started with a community group getting together with enthusiasm to give public radio a voice in the Hastings, and for myself personally it was a technical challenge. So I'm not really a presenter or a speaker on radio, but a technical challenge. And in the late 70s FM radio was something new. It was high fidelity, promised a lot more than AM.
So were people really excited about FM radio, much as they are about digital radio now?
Exactly. We're going into the new generation of digital radio. It'll be interesting to see what 2AFM does in that respect. And we had the honour of becoming the first solar-powered radio station in Australia.
Yeah. So, and Chris, it's been 10 years since you've been in the station, you're saying. How do you fit into the history of 2AFM?
I moved up here in 1984, and the media environment here was a wasteland, basically, because coming from Sydney, where you had a variety of radio stations, television stations and live entertainment, there wasn't much here.
Is that right?
In 1984 there would have been 2 radio stations, 2 television stations, no FM.
And what were those radio stations? ABC would have been one?
It was called 2KPTR then.
Wow.
So KP for Kempsey and TR for Taree.
Right.
2MC.
And 2MC.
Oh, okay, yep.
And it all started for me in 1985.
Wow. And it started with a public meeting, did it?
The first meeting was in Port Macquarie. The second meeting was in Moorhope here. And within a year, that first year of having a steering committee, we had our first test broadcast in December 1986.
Do you remember was there much support back then?
There certainly was.
Yeah.
One of the most satisfying stories I can remember from my involvement, my 15 years in community radio, was I met a bloke, it would have been in the late 80s, and I told him I was very enthusiastic. I had long hair and I drove a 2-tone pink EK station wagon. And I told him that I was with a group trying to start a radio station. I met him about 15 years later, and he confided in me. I said, "Look, I thought you were mad." He just said, "It's never going to happen. You're never going to make it happen."
It did seem insurmountable at the time, the challenge.
Yeah,
really?
and that's one of the most satisfying things, is this group of disparate group of people pulled the whole thing together.
Was it a large group?
No, before licensing there was probably a core group of about 10 or 12 people, and we stuck together because it was...
There were very few community radio stations. And the government wasn't handing out licences willy-nilly. I think 2NUR-FM in Newcastle and 2EAR in Eurobodalla.
After the first test broadcast, there was a whole heap of enthusiasm. We had 2 offices in Port Macquarie in 1986. We had one in Horton Street, which was donated by the State Bank, I think.
That's correct.
And we had an office with a water view at Lighthouse Beach, donated by a doctor. There was all this enthusiasm, and we submitted our planning proposal, and we were told, OK, you've got to wait 7 years before this will even be looked at. We didn't know that at the time.
And so what sort of feeling did that put through the group?
Well, it came to a grinding halt. We basically lost a lot of members, lost a lot of momentum. About the same time we lost the office in Lighthouse Beach. 89, we were having meetings in Joan Turnbull's house in Hastings River Drive. The members were paying the bills of the organisation from their own pockets. After it got very low, about 89, 90, we got shared house in Warhope, and then it all came back together again, and we sort of pulled it all back together. And it didn't take the 7 years that the Department of Communication had told us. We were licensed by 1991. Yeah, so we pushed really hard. We annoyed a lot of politicians and people in government,
And Marsha, you were here from the beginning. Do you remember that? This sounds like a roller coaster ride, the beginning of 2AFM.
Yeah, oh yes it does, but I do remember all that.
Yeah, well,
I've been here 25 years.
Yeah.
And it was 12 months. It was back in 1985, and I went to all the meetings, and I done fundraising as well.
And what about, tell us about that feeling when you heard about that 7-year gap, which nobody expected. What did that do to morale?
I thought, well, this is it. Well, it's, you know, it's not going to get off the ground, it maybe, but we just keep in there, and look at us today.
Yeah, look at us today, exactly.
And I'm still here.
So the first test broadcast was a truly pioneering event, which was... we towed a caravan to the top of...
Papenbarra Trig.
Yeah, which was, we thought at the time, the best, the highest site with the best line of sight to Port Macquarie. And that was...
We couldn't actually get access to Mount Cairncross then.
So we took this caravan up, and what was in it? All the equipment?
Yeah.
Well, at the bottom there was a lot of equipment in it at the top.
There was a window, Stuart. There was a wall with a window. And we also had a hills wind-up antenna.
Mast, that's correct.
Yeah.
This is a portable studio.
Yeah.
And the generator, and you couldn't actually drive anything but a very rugged four-wheel drive to the top, so people had to reasonably fit to get up to do their broadcasting.
And how many people were doing this?
It was a 3-day test broadcast. Marsh has actually got the program guide there. It was over a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, I believe.
I'm interested to know what was the first thing that we ever put to air on 2AFM. What was part of that first test broadcast?
Yes, it was Sue King and the Mayor, was it? Or was that the second test broadcast? I'm sure Sue King was... She did a suitably grand announcement, which possibly didn't go to air because of a technical issue.
Oh, no.
Here we have a program guide. And
This
we're
is the
going
original
all the way
program
back,
guide.
yes, to Thursday the 11th of December 1986. And it simply says, opening address, at 5:55. And then the first program was by Sue King. It was a program called Time Warp.
You're joking. Time Warp, the same show that precedes this one from 6 till 8 p.m. every Thursday night on this great station.
Absolutely.
That's right.
It wasn't the same fella, though.
No, this was Sue King. Actually, there's some great names. Chris and Kim Francis, who still run a business in Port Macquarie. Errol Callaghan, who's still around, I believe. Anna Soleil, who is working in television, I believe.
Television and
now.
broadcasting, yeah.
Sarah King, who was Sue King's daughter, did a program. And then at 10 o'clock on Friday night, there's a bloke called Chris Wallace who did a program called Sounds of Sydney. Brings back some memories looking at this, Marsha. It's actually fantastic.
Was the test broadcast deemed successful?
Certainly was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Created a hell of a lot of interest.
Did it really?
Yeah, we didn't have a telephone line. I believe Eddie Edwards, who was a member, his house was below the site, and he graciously lent his phone number, and they were relaying messages from their house, I don't know how, up to the caravan.
Wow.
So it was...
Somebody might have been jogging.
Yeah, look, it was like, I don't know what, it was legal. I think we had permission to do it, didn't we?
The licence to do it.
Yeah, but
Let's say we did.
it felt like pirate radio. We were sitting in this little caravan, looking out into the bush. Somewhere out there was Port Macquarie. We couldn't see it, but it was just really amazing.
Oh, I
And
would love-
Papenbarra Trig to this day hasn't got over it, I don't think. It's still quite an effort to get up there.
It doesn't seem to me like 24 years ago, 25 years ago. It was one of those things that you remember, and we're all younger and silly. The third test broadcast wasn't until about 1991, just before we got our licence. So we went from 3 test broadcasts, then we did weekend broadcasts, and we slowly built it up to 24-hour broadcasting. We were licensed in about in the middle of 1991 from memory.
Bob gave us a lot of inspiration from Taree as well. Yeah. They were on air 3 years before us, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're taking a lot of cues from them.
Yeah.
They actually invited members from 2A to go down there, and they actually gave us a program on Saturday mornings. It was called Radio Hastings, where they allowed people from, very brave move, I reckon, they took people from Hastings Community Radio and gave them their own program, and those sorts of things kept us interested. and also individual members of Hastings went down there. Bill Wedgwood and I did regular midnight to dawn shifts, and other members, I think Marsha did a country program, Killabar Country.
I done Killabar Country, that was on us every second Sunday.
Yeah.
I'd go down for 3 years.
Is there one challenge that stands out to you back in those days that was like the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome to get the station actually functioning properly the way it needed to?
The biggest technical challenge was really power at Mount Cairncross. We did run the place solar powered on batteries. We had a